On Thursday, March 14th, 21-year-old Richmond Hill native Aneal Ramkissoon became the third houseguest evicted from the inaugural season of Big Brother Canada. Following the season's first Chevrolet power shift, Canada voted to save nominee Suzette Amaya, forcing the current HOH Tom Plant to replace her. Tom had only the commercial break to decide and nominated Aneal, who was considered a threat by the House because of his early gameplay. By a vote of 8-2, the majority ruled to send Aneal home over fellow nominee AJ Berman. While not as long-lived as he might have hoped, make no mistake, Aneal's time in the House was far from easy and uneventful.
Aneal, you're backstabbing me the whole week, so you better shut your mouth.
I got the chance to catch up with Aneal about life on and after Big Brother Canada. Aneal, thank you so much for coming to talk with us today.
No problem.
So the first thing I wanted to ask you was, a lot of American reality shows have tried to break into the Canadian market, Canadian Idol, Bachelor Canada. I think a lot of people underestimate them and don't have high expectations for them, but Big Brother Canada is doing hugely successful, so many ratings. Why do you think that is? Are you surprised at all?
I'm not surprised. I think that Big Brother and the culture of Big Brother requires such a intense fandom, and a lot of the fans are Canadian for the American one.
Right.
So it was nice for Canadians to see people from, different parts of Canada play the game, and they become obsessed with it. Once you watch that first episode, it's kind of addicting. And then there's live feeds, after dark, so it becomes almost like a second culture for Canadians when they watch it.
I agree. So Big Brother's been hugely popular in the US, over in the UK. Why do you think it took so long for it to come to Canada?
I think, like you said earlier, a lot of Canadian reality shows, have tried it out. Canada's Got Talent, Canadian Idol, and they kind of just burned out. But with the 14th season of Big Brother and the American one, and the fandom only growing and growing, it was the perfect time, I think, for it to come to Canada.
So, since your eviction, what's the response you've heard from people about the Canadian version of the show?
People love it. People are addicted. People want to know, kind of the inside world of the house, and, it becomes an obsession for a lot of fans. It's either you don't casually watch Big Brother, you're either obsessed with it, or you don't watch it all.
Right. So let's talk about the way you got evicted. So the Chevrolet power shift, we'll talk about that. So I think what happened was vast majority of viewers voted to save Suzette just solely to kind of get under Tom, who was the house villain's skin.
Yes.
I know that was going on outside of the house. People were trending it on Twitter, let's get Tom angry, let's do this just to see the look on his face. And I don't think people really considered that he would have to, nominate someone else in her place who would probably go home next to AJ.
Yeah.
So what do you think of the whole Chevrolet power shift?
I knew that Suzette would have been saved specifically to piss off Tom. I know that was a fun feud. Even being in the house, it was fun to watch. And then I know whoever got nominated up against AJ would go home just because AJ's such a weak competitor. So it was almost like I said, it's like being double backdoored because the veto was used to save Gary. Suzette just comes off the block, so it's two new nominees. So I was hoping it wasn't going to be me, but as soon as he mentioned my name, I knew I was going to be gone.
Shame. So you said that Big Brother Canada would hopefully turn into a thesis for your undergrad. So, being an RTA student, we study in, in television. So can you elaborate on that a bit? I find that so interesting.
Yeah, so at my university, we do undergrad research theses where you can present a research thesis and then a professor works with you and then you present your thesis. And, I become obsessed with Big Brother, and then I noticed that it has a lot of intercultural communication and rhetoric brought into the game. So I want to, focus on the intercultural communication in the sense that it's 15 diverse house guests competing for one prize, and how, little things affect, this sounds stupid in the house, there's a huge argument about if butter should be left in the fridge or if butter should be left outside. But if you look at that argument, it kind of stems from the way you were brought up, which is your intercultural background. So I want to, just take a new season, maybe the American one, 15, and look at each house guest, their intercultural background, and how it applies to the rhetoric in the game.
Very cool. I think the Canadian one did a really good job of being multicultural. It wasn't and I think a lot of people who in the US are watching it would said the same thing.
Yeah.
That was the good feedback. Okay, so I want to move into a little bit more personal fun stuff, the side of the house. So, do you think you'll keep in touch with anyone from the show?
Yeah, I've already kept in touch with Kat, Danielle, Tom, and Liza.
Very cool.
So now we have to wait for till the end because now everyone's going to be in jury.
Oh, that's true.
So, you know, we have a month and a half where we don't really have to talk to anyone.
You could decide.
Yeah, but I'm excited to keep in touch with a lot of house guests, and I live in Florida, and a lot of house guests visit there. So, you know, I'm hoping to reconnect with them when they're on vacation and stuff.
So it'll be like a fun little reunion.
Yes.
So have you been watching the live feeds at all?
I've watched bits and pieces. It's definitely hard to watch, especially being in the house and now being outside of it.
It's weird. And okay, so this is something that I've always thought about. When you leave the house and you watch the show and you see people's diary room confessionals,
Yeah.
what does that do to like your thoughts on the house guests?
You know, it's interesting in the sense that it was reaffirming to me because a lot of what I thought was right. You know what I mean? I knew that Emmett was calling the shots and that, you know, Jillian was really conflicted and she was easily influenced. So it was definitely interesting to kind of see what their thoughts were without the house guest. Because when you have a conversation with the house guest, you're not sure if it's real, you're not sure if they're telling the truth. So it's cool to see like uncensored diary footage of the house guest just to, you know, oh, they weren't lying to me.
And did your opinions change on anyone after seeing the diary room confessionals?
You know, I fell in love with Gary and Tala more. I think that being in the house, I knew that Gary was such a tough competitor and he was hard to live with, so I wanted him out. But now watching it, you know, you can't help but to root for Gary and Tala because they're the most extreme underdogs.
Right, and they're so entertaining.
Yeah, so funny.
I mean, okay, so who do you think is the strongest player left in the house and why?
You know, I still think it's Gary, and I think that, you know, the dark horse is kind of Topaz. Yeah, the cliche answer is Alec and Peter, but I think that they're such big targets because, you know, they got rid of Tom and Liza, so they're the most dominating duo. So, you know, Jillian and Emmett are a duo, but Jillian's not the best player. She's just kind of strong. So it's going to be interesting to see, you know, Gary and Topaz, two complete underdogs, kind of take over to see if they can match Alec and Peter.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I think Topaz and Gary, their little
Secret wedding.
Yeah, secret wedding. Who do you think is the weakest player left in the house?
I definitely have to say AJ. I think that he thinks he's playing a better social game, and you know, it might be working. He's still in the house. People are annoyed of him, yet he's still there. He's been on the block twice now. He'll probably survive tonight. But I think that he has to start winning things, but he can't. So I definitely think he's the weakest player in the house.
And I think it was funny because I think it was on the show yesterday. He said, like, the thing about AJ is you'll never see me coming. And everyone was, like, dying. It was just too entertaining. So who are you rooting for?
You know, as soon as I left the house, I was rooting for Jillian and Liza. You know, I still love Jillian. She was probably my closest friend in the house, so I would love to see her win. But, you know, like I said, I would love to see, you know, Gary or Tala just take it. They would never suspect Tala winning. Gary, we should have gotten out week 1, so it'd just be interesting. Or, I mean, imagine if AJ won. It would be the biggest slap in everyone's face.
That would be a shocking turn of events. So you mentioned Jillian, so she was someone you formed an alliance with very early on in the game, who actually in week 2 nominated you at her showmance's request. What do you think of the kind of game that she's playing?
You know, when I first got close to Jillian, it wasn't even game related. She just reminded me of my friends back home, so we really clicked in that sense, and then we formed, you know, I got your back, you got mine. And then once I saw that I was nominated, I knew that she wasn't as strong of a game player as I thought she was. So it was kind of alarming. It shows that she's easily influenced, and she's not really playing her own game. I think she's playing Emmett's game right now.
She's being that girl.
Yeah.
And so how is life different for you since being evicted? Are people stopping you on the streets? Do people, like, how's it different?
Yeah, people definitely stop you on the streets. You know, it comes in waves. Part of you know, you're like, I did it, I made it, I'm so proud of myself. And then there's days, you know, where I'm just frustrated with the fact that I'm out and I had no chance to fight, you know what I mean? But I'm excited. I go back home to like my real apartment and stuff next week, so I think that's when things will start to be normal.
Back to Florida.
Yeah.
So you deferred a semester to do the show.
Yes.
Ultimately, are you happy with your decision? Do you have any regrets?
No, I mean, the only thing that is going to be frustrating, I'm sure, when I start school is knowing that all the people that I started, you know, my major with are going to be graduating a semester earlier than me. So that is kind of frustrating, but you know, to be chosen out of 10,000 people, that's like an amazing accomplishment in itself. So I don't regret deferring a semester at all.
Awesome. So what comes next for you?
I want to finish my degree. I want to, you know, just see where I want to be after that, if I want to stay in the States or come back to Toronto. I never really appreciated Toronto until really doing this show. And, you know, Toronto has such a pop culture essence that I didn't really know about. So I'm really excited to see it grow and expand. So by the time I graduate, hopefully I can come back.
Very cool. So just before I let you go, I want to do something fun. We're going to do like a little speed round, okay?
Okay.
I have 10 Big Brother related like names or words, we'll say.
Okay.
I'm going to shoot them at you. Say the first thing that comes to mind, okay?
Okay.
Okay, so are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Slop.
Gross.
Showmance.
Disgusting.
Tala.
Funny.
Threat.
Peter.
Floater.
Andrew.
Gary.
Glitter.
The Shield.
Pinky in the Brain.
Topaz.
Sleeping.
And finally, Marsha the Moose.
Boring. I wish she talked to me. She was just the moose on the wall, so I wish I got to talk to her, but she's so funny to watch.
Aneal, thank you so much for coming. It was so good to talk to you. I'm such a huge fan, and I can't wait to see how it all ends.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.